I am 40 years old, happily unmarried, child-free by choice, and up until a few months ago, I was the designated ATM for my entire extended family. If you've ever had the misfortune of being the successful, single person in a deeply dysfunctional family, you probably already know how this story starts. In their eyes, because I don't have a husband or children, my money isn't really my money. It's extra money. It's a communal emergency fund for a group of adults who have made terrible life choices and refuse to take accountability for them. For the last 15 years, I have worked my fingers to the bone in corporate finance. I missed holidays, I pulled 80-hour weeks, and I sacrificed my 20s to build a career that I am incredibly proud of. But to my parents, my aunts, my uncles, and my cousins, my career was just a magical money tree that they felt entitled to shake whenever their own funds ran dry. Let me give you a quick rundown of the financial abuse I endured before the big event. When I was 25, I paid off my parents' credit card debt, $30,000 that they had racked up buying useless luxury items and taking cruises while claiming they couldn't afford groceries. At 28, I bylaid my cousin Jimmy out of a massive hole when he decided to invest his life savings into a defunct cryptocurrency and faced eviction. At 32, I paid for my Aunt Brenda's entire kitchen renovation because she guilt-tripped my mother into crying on my couch for 3 days until I wrote the check. Whenever I said no, I was met with a chorus of toxic guilt. But you have no dependents. What else are you spending it on? Family is everything. We raised you. You're being selfish. The breaking point finally arrived this year. After a grueling 2-year project, I was called into the executive boardroom. My CEO offered me the promotion of a lifetime, Vice President of Global Operations. It came with an astronomical pay raise, a massive signing bonus, stock options, and one catch: I had to permanently relocate to our European headquarters in Zurich, Switzerland. I was ecstatic. But as I sat in my car, holding the signed contract, a dark cloud loomed over my happiness. I hadn't spoken to my family in 4 months. The last interaction I had was a screaming match with my mother because I refused to pay $50,000 for my cousin Sarah's third destination wedding in Fiji. I knew that the second I told them about my promotion, the demands would start again. They would expect me to fund their lives from across the ocean. They would demand access to my new salary. I decided, right then and there, that I was done. But I didn't just want to walk away. I wanted to see exactly how deep their greed went. I wanted undeniable proof that they didn't love me, they only loved what I could give them. So I devised a test, a social experiment. And the bait was $5 million. The set. Aunt Brenda is the human equivalent of a tabloid magazine. If you want a secret broadcast to the entire Eastern Seaboard, you tell Aunt Brenda. 2 days after my promotion, I invited Brenda to coffee under the guise of burying the hatchet over the wedding drama. I arrived early, bought our coffees, and sat down. I purposely left a glossy, fake lottery ticket I had bought at a novelty store sticking slightly out of my purse, right next to a printed and heavily forged claim form from the State Lottery Commission. Brenda sat down, completely ignoring my polite small talk, her eyes locked onto the paperwork like a heat-seeking missile. "What's that?" she asked, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. I feigned a look of absolute panic. I hastily shoved the papers deep into my bag, my hands shaking for dramatic effect. "Nothing. It's nothing, Brenda, just work documents." "That didn't look like work," she pressed, leaning over the table, her eyes wide. "Is that a lottery claim form? Did you win something?" I looked down, playing the part of the overwhelmed, terrified winner. "Brenda, you cannot tell anyone. Seriously. If my parents find out, it'll be a nightmare. I I bought a scratch-off on a whim last week. It was a winner." "How much?" she gasped, her knuckles turning white as she gripped her latte. I looked around the empty cafe, leaned in close, and whispered, $5 million. After taxes, it's about 3.2. The money hits my account next Friday. Please, Brenda, swear to me you won't tell a soul." She swore on her children's lives. She promised me her lips were sealed. She even hugged me. The first time she's hugged me in 10 years, I knew it wouldn't even take an hour. The tsunami of greed. I left the cafe at 11 o'clock a.m. At exactly 11:42 a.m., My phone began to vibrate. And it did not stop vibrating for 5 days straight. I had set my phone to automatically forward all family calls to voicemail. Over the next week, I sat in my apartment, packing my boxes for Switzerland, and listened to the absolute darkest depths of human greed pour out of my phone's speaker. Let me break down the onslaught, because the sheer audacity of their demands is almost unbelievable. Demand 1, my parents. My mother called first. The woman who hadn't spoken to me in a third of a year suddenly sounded like I was the center of her universe. Sweetie, my beautiful girl, Aunt Brenda just called me. Oh my God, $5 million. We are so proud of you. Your father and I have been talking, and we are just so relieved. We've been looking at this gorgeous vacation property in Boca Raton, and we figured, since you're a millionaire now, you could buy it for us outright. It's only $850,000. And obviously, we need to pay off our second mortgage. Call us back so we can get your accountant's information. Love you so much. When I didn't answer for 24 hours, the tone shifted. My father left a voicemail the next day. Listen to me. You are being extremely disrespectful, ignoring your mother. We raised you. We paid for your food and your clothes, and this is how you repay us, by hoarding millions of dollars. I went down to the marina today and put a reserve on a Boston whaler fishing boat. It's $120,000. I told them my daughter was wiring the money by Monday. Do not embarrass me. Call me back immediately. Demand 2, Aunt Brenda and Uncle Dave. Despite swearing on her children's lives, Brenda was the first in line with her hand out. Hey hun, it's Brenda. Listen, Uncle Dave and I were doing some math. You know the twins are starting college next year, and tuition is just insane. We think it's only fair that you set up a trust fund for them. $1 million should cover both of their tuitions, housing, and give them a nice nest egg to start their lives. Also, my Honda is making a weird noise, so Dave is taking me to the Mercedes dealership tomorrow. We figure a G-Wagon is perfect. Let me know when the funds clear. Demand 3. The cousins. Cousin Jimmy, the one whose crypto disaster I bailaid out, left a 3-minute, rambling voicemail about a new, revolutionary AI tech startup he wanted to found. He demanded a $500,000 angel investment, claiming that because we shared DNA, I was legally obligated to invest in my family before seeking outside financial advice. Cousin Sarah, the one with the Fiji wedding, sent a barrage of texts. Text 1, OMG rich, Fiji is back on. Text 2, hello, you there. Text 3, BTW I upgraded my dress since you won the lotto. It's 15K, send me card details. Text 4, wow, ignoring me, you selfish witch, you owe me a wedding after ruining my life. The escalation and the threats. By day 4 of my silence, the sweet talking and the we love yous had completely evaporated. The realization that I was ignoring their demands sent them into a collective, rabid frenzy. My phone became a repository for legal threats and unhinged abuse. Uncle Dave left a voicemail so angry I could hear his heavy breathing. You listen to me, you ungrateful little brat. Your grandfather always said that any massive windfall in this family would be split equally. We are consulting a lawyer. We are going to sue you for a breach of oral family contract if you don't surrender 40% of that ticket to the family trust. You are nothing without us. My mother left a sobbing, hysterical voicemail claiming I was giving her a heart attack and that my selfishness was going to put her in an early grave. She literally demanded I pay for her future medical bills caused by the stress of my hoarding. They showed their true faces. There was not a single message asking how I was doing. Not a single message congratulating me just for the sake of being happy for me. It was a feeding frenzy, and I was just the carcass they were trying to pick clean. I exported every single voicemail. I took screenshots of every text message. I spent hours editing the audio files together, boosting the volume, making sure every vicious insult, every greedy demand, and every pathetic threat was crystal clear. I burned it all onto my phone and connected it to my portable Bluetooth speaker. Then, I sent out a mass group text to the 10 worst offenders. My parents, Brenda, Dave, Jimmy, Sarah, and a few other aunts and uncles who had joined the mob. I'm sorry I've been quiet. It's been overwhelming dealing with the lawyers and the accountants for the winnings. I want to make things right. I've rented out the private dining room at Le Palais for tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Dinner is on me. We will discuss the distribution of the funds then. Le Palais is the most expensive, pretentious, high-end French restaurant in our city. I knew they wouldn't be able to resist. The dinner. I arrived at 6:30 p.m. I wore my sharpest business suit, the one I had bought for my new VP role. I set my phone and my high-end Bluetooth speaker on the table, hidden behind a massive floral centerpiece. At 6:55 p.m., they swarmed in. It was sickening. The smiles were plastic, stretched tight over their faces. My mother ran up and hugged me like I was a soldier returning from war. Uncle Dave clapped me on the back so hard I almost lost my breath. Sarah was literally vibrating in her seat, holding a binder that I could only assume contained her Fiji wedding plans. "We knew you'd come to your senses," my father boomed, taking the head of the table. "Family takes care of family." "Exactly," Aunt Brenda chimed in, already flagging down the sommelier. "And to celebrate, I think we need the good stuff. Bring us 3 bottles of the 98 Dom Perignon." I watched in absolute silence as they ordered. They didn't hold back. Caviar, Wagyu steaks, lobster thermidor, truffles shaved over everything. They were racking up a bill in the thousands, giggling and toasting to our new fortune. They talked over me, they talked around me, already spending money they believed was sitting in my bank account. I let them eat. I let them drink the champagne. I let them gorge themselves on their own greed for a full hour and a half. I drank sparkling water and ate a simple salad. When the dessert menus were cleared and the espresso was served, the room fell silent. 10 pairs of hungry, expectant eyes locked onto me. "All right, sweetie," my mother said, wiping her mouth with a linen napkin. "Let's get down to business, have the funds cleared." "Yes," I said, my voice eerily calm. "The funds are completely sorted, but before we talk numbers, I wanted to share something with you all. I've been documenting this journey over the last week. The outpouring of love and support I've received from this family has been unforgettable. In fact, I made a little compilation so we can all remember how we treated each other in this monumental moment." Before anyone could ask what I meant, I reached behind the centerpiece, unlocked my phone, and pressed play. The Bluetooth speaker was set to maximum volume. The bass rattled the crystal glasses on the table. First, it played my mother's sweet, fake voice demanding an $850,000 house. Then, instantly, it cut to my father threatening me over a boat. "Do not embarrass me, call me back immediately." The color drained from my mother's face. My father stiffened. Then came Aunt Brenda demanding a G-Wagon and $1 million trust fund. "What is this?" Uncle Dave hissed, starting to stand up. "Sit down," I commanded, my voice snapping like a whip. He actually froze and sat back down. The audio continued. It played Sarah calling me a selfish witch. It played Jimmy demanding $500,000. And finally, the grand finale, Uncle Dave's red-faced, breathless legal threat. "You listen to me, you ungrateful little brat. We are going to sue you. You are nothing without us." The audio finished. The silence in the private room was so absolute you could hear the air conditioning humming. Brenda looked like she was going to vomit. Sarah was staring at her lap. My father's face was purple with rage. "You recorded us?" my mother whispered, tears of profound embarrassment welling in her eyes. "How could you be so cruel?" "Cruel?" I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh, it was a cold, bitter sound. "You want to talk about cruel? None of you asked how I was. None of you cared about my safety, my future, or my well-being. The second you thought I had money, you turned into vultures. You tricked us," Jimmy yelled, slamming his hand on the table. "Yes, I did," I said, standing up. "Because here is the truth, there is no lottery ticket. There is no $5 million. The collective gasp that sucked the air out of the room was the most satisfying sound I have ever heard in my 40 years on this earth. "What?" Brenda choked out. "But the papers in the cafe." "Fake," I said. "Bought at a joke shop for $3. I haven't won a single cent in the lottery." Chaos erupted. My father started shouting about the deposit he put on the boat. Brenda started screaming that she had already told the Mercedes dealership she was coming in tomorrow. Sarah burst into dramatic, heaving sobs about her wedding. "Quiet," I yelled, silencing them one last time. "You are all adults. Your debts, your fake weddings, your boats, they are your problems. I have bilayed you out for 15 years, and your response was to try and bleed me dry the second you thought I struck it rich. I picked up my purse and pulled out the thick, embossed envelope containing my new corporate contract. I didn't win the lottery, but I did get promoted to Vice President of Global Operations. I am making more money than I ever thought possible. And the best part? I smiled, looking each of them in the eye. My new office is in Zurich, Switzerland. I fly out tomorrow morning. My apartment here is already empty. My phone number is changing tomorrow. None of you will ever have access to me, or my money, ever again. You can't do this, my mother wailed, reaching across the table. We're your family. You were my parasites, I corrected her gently. I turned around and walked to the door of the private room. I placed exactly $50 on the side table, enough to cover my salad and my sparkling water. By the way, I said, looking back at the table of devastated, greedy faces, the bill for the Dom Perignon, the Wagyu, and the lobster is all yours. I suggest you figure out how to split it. Goodbye. The aftermath. I walked out of Le Palais, through the main dining room, and out into the crisp evening air. Behind me, I could faintly hear the muffled sounds of shouting coming from the private room. It sounded like a cage of rabid animals turning on each other. I drove to my hotel by the airport. I blocked every single one of their numbers, blocked them on every social media platform, and permanently deleted my old email address. I am writing this from my new apartment overlooking Lake Zurich. The mountains are beautiful, my job is challenging but incredibly rewarding, and for the first time in my life, my bank account belongs entirely to me. I heard through a mutual friend, before I blocked her too, that Uncle Dave lost his mind when the restaurant handed him a $4,000 bill. They tried to run out on the check, the restaurant called the police, and my father had to max out his last remaining credit card to avoid getting arrested for theft of services. Aunt Brenda is driving her clunky Honda, and Cousin Sarah is officially on her third postponed wedding. They say money changes people. I disagree. I think the illusion of money simply unmasks them. I lost a toxic family, but I bought my freedom. And that is worth far more than $5 million.